welcome to Texas!
He's a 10.
I choose this family.
Hey guys, and welcome to episode 19 of 911 Lone Star Roundup. I'm one of your hosts, EJ, and with me today are my lovely co-hosts, Grace.
Hey guys.
And Katie.
Hey everyone.
Today we're going to be talking about episode 8 of season 2, titled Bad Call, or the winter finale as many have called it. Just a reminder, we will not be recapping the episode, though today we'll probably talk about most of it. So we're just gonna talk about what stood out to us, because there's a lot to talk about, so we should probably get started.
So much. Oh my god. Oh, everything?
Everything. Yeah. This was an awesome episode.
Oh, yes. I would like to make it known that nothing has been able to nudge out the crossover until this one, and only because of Carlos' scenes.
Oh my god, yes.
I was pretty sure nothing was going to be able to nudge us out, but this episode did it. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So we start the episode at the Strand's house the night before everything happens, and they're celebrating TK's 1 year of sobriety.
Let's give him a round of applause for that.
Yeah, so proud of him.
Yay, TK.
Yes, yay. Because he was in a really bad spot. Even what he said, kind of in his thing, his attitude of gratitude is what's on the coin, and there's a lot, he's been through a lot, but he's grateful for a lot as well, and almost dying in New York and then coming to Texas.
And honestly, it's hard to believe that's been a year, only a year, but also it's been all the way to a year, if that makes any sense.
Right. Well, and I was thinking about it, for us, it's been a year and a couple of months, because the show started in January of 2020 and then COVID happened, so it should have come back probably about end of September, early October, so we had to wait quite a bit longer for it. So this episode probably would have aired right around Christmas or right after Christmas, traditionally, if COVID hadn't happened or postponed everything.
I love this scene because my favorite line, it's like last year I was in a dark place, but my favorite line of that part was, and I found an incredible man who who showed me
I love that
it is okay to once open up my heart, because that's literally how I pictured it in my head of him saying something like that. Oh, so good.
It's like they plucked something straight out of a fan fiction, let's be honest.
But
so much better, I think, because it's canon now. And Carlos's sweet bashful look,
he's
he's so proud of TK, you can see it. And I'm just I saw a clip of this scene with that line before I watched the episode, because I watched both episodes yesterday, and I saw it, and already just off of that I knew it was going to be great. Then I saw some of the photos of what happened towards the end, and I'm like,
first off, I'm proud of TK for all of that he's gone through. He has been through a lot.
Oh my gosh, baby deserves a break. Which he did not get this episode,
he does deserve a break. And he does work an intense job, and so now he's changed to be a paramedic, which was definitely kind of unexpected, but unexpected in this.
Really good transition, though.
Yeah, I just mean unexpected. For so long, he wanted to be a firefighter, and then all of a sudden, just decided to change. But I think it's good for him, and I think it'll give him some more opportunity for growth. But then
I think this is all part of his self-exploration journey, because he's doing a lot of separating himself from his past right now, and that includes his dad, he who shall not be named, and all of that.
And we all know who that is.
We all know. It took me a second, but I know.
And I know oftentimes when you go through recovery, especially something like this, like the 12-step programs, they recommend that you don't get into a relationship in that first year, because it's usually there's a big struggle. But I think it was just Carlos and TK really worked up to a relationship. They didn't just jump into something right away. I think at first
they jumped into hooking up, but that's different.
Yeah, they didn't start defining a true relationship until the end of season 1. So this has been, probably maybe 6 months or so of kind of a real relationship, and so we've really kind of moved forward. But kind of also in this scene, the last part of his little speech was, and maybe the biggest miracle was, that I've been praying for 7 years is that since I was 7, was my parents got back together. And then, obviously we see Gwen and Owen kind of smile awkwardly.
That almost ruined the entire speech for me because it's like, fuck.
Yeah, it was awkward. Yeah. Well, and then when Owen and Gwen kind of turn and they're like, both kind of look at each other like, that was awkward.
A little bit. Did you call them
both?
I'm glad they didn't spoil it that day because they would have intentionally, but unintentionally happens just as often and is probably more detrimental. Not more detrimental, but still as detrimental.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm glad they were thinking of their son when they did, they chose not to tell him before the party. Because they were actually thinking it. Because sometimes it's not that I felt like they forgot they had a son sometimes, but even in the first few episodes, we kept getting times when their banter or their argument they would pull TK into the middle of it, he was an innocent bystander, or
he'd get forced into mediator and he was not having that shit.
Right. Or in episode 4, we had TK trying to get some, advice or just tell them what was going on, and then they're bickering and commenting of what he should be doing, and turns into what they should be doing.
Because you can see he's just like, oh, not again.
Yeah.
So they oftentimes turn the conversations around to themselves.
Yeah.
And it kind of takes away from TK. But,
I have to say this was probably the most family they all seemed in the season.
Yeah.
And that's depressing since Gwen's leaving.
Yeah. Right.
It's like, wow, that's sad.
Yeah. And we have had kind of confirmation that she was not planned to return after the break, but that doesn't mean she won't come back. But she won't be a consistent character.
I saw something that said that she was not coming back as a main character. She never was a main character. She was a reoccurring semi-main character.
Yeah.
But she never was given a full spot on the cast. She was never intended to stay. So, she's, at this point, she's completely knocked down to guest if she reappears.
Yeah.
I'm not really expecting to see her much, if at all.
Oh, right. No. I think that was meant to be she's not coming back, but maybe she'll come back eventually. I don't see it happening this season just because that would make any sense. Why would you get rid of her?
I'm thinking maybe video calls, when the baby's born and stuff like that. We might see that. But I'm not expecting to see her back in Texas.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I'm not either.
And I'm kind of ready to have that door closed, and we can talk on that later.
Oh, yeah.
But
I would like to throw some shade, though.
Let's do that.
The fact that they showed Buttercup for a 0.2 seconds next to Marjan and then Tommy's kids, Evie and Izzy. I was they didn't even give us the scene we deserved, which is Carlos with Buttercup, and I am bitter, okay? I'm bitter.
Same. They know how much we love Buttercup. We deserve far more than getting him for 0.1 seconds. I mean,
Yeah.
And then it was pointed out to me today because when I first watched it, I saw the Gwen and Owen conversation, but I didn't pay attention to the background.
Same, actually.
And so I was just pointed out, I just saw today, somebody had pointed out that TK and Carlos were hugging in the background. And then a moment later, Carlos is hugging Grace.
I love that.
I love those. I love seeing that.
Yeah.
Because we always, we see them working together as in the, Grace is the dispatcher and Carlos is the police out in the city.
And I love those scenes. Them helping the woman in a domestic abuse situation and them helping the girl in the trailer and all that. I love those little moments, but I love seeing the physical moment.
Yes.
Yes! And they probably worked together for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, and I'm sure he and Grace and Jed have known each other for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Hell,
Carlos
probably knew Tommy, too.
Yeah, I wonder if they know each other better now because, Carlos is involved with TK, or if it's just oh yeah, hi Carlos, this is normal.
Yeah, I feel like it's because, him and TK are involved, but, I feel like they probably knew each other, decently, acquaintances, maybe. They worked together, so they kind of knew each other, but it's not like they would hang out with each other, outside of work, maybe.
Yeah. Well, that was an entire 10 minutes to the first scene. We might want to move on before this becomes a half-hour scene.
Oh, you mean this episode's not going to be all about Tyler?
I mean, we can do that. Like, sorry guys, we're skipping everything else.
Yeah, so after we get the next day, we kind of start to see the beginning of possible storyline. As there's a guy robbing a bank. He has a bomb strapped to his body.
Yeah.
And, the silent alarm goes off. So Grace dispatches a police officer unit, which is Carlos and the gal that he's working with.
I think the last name is Mitchell, because he said it.
Yes.
Okay.
But I don't know what the name. I've heard a lot of people refer to her as Maya, but I've never heard anything to confirm that.
He's had several female he's had several people he's worked with, because not every department has partners.
Yeah.
So just some days you might be working together with somebody, some days you might not.
And that's why we've seen Solo so much.
Yeah.
Right. So we find Carlos and the officer catch this guy in the alley from the bank, and this guy gives him a sad story about, well, they told me I had to bring this, and then they'll take this bomb off me, but I had to bring the money, and so there's just this big storyline. And Carlos, even though he's a police officer, he has to make a split section decision as to whether or not he's going to believe the guy and let him go, or arrest him and take a chance on putting all of their lives in jeopardy.
Yeah, and honestly, I do not envy him this. I believed the guy at the till from the start, because you could tell he was terrified.
Oh yeah,
there was no acting there. There was no obviously he's acting because he's an actor, but he was genuinely terrified. And poor Carlos, because he's got protocol.
Yeah.
But also making the wrong decision would have had them all go boom.
Yeah.
And it's
because yeah, and so it made a very tough decision, and so Carlos ended up telling his partner, "We're going to let him go."
Yeah,
and the guy even said, "You guys can shoot me now, or let me go.
I'm going to die either way.
If I don't come back, I'm going to die either way."
Yeah,
and so I think the gal said something like, "Well, it's your badge or something."
Yeah, it's it's on your head, or it's your badge, or something like that.
He said,
and honestly, I could understand why she was like this, because they had nothing to prove that he was either way. They had nothing to prove that he wasn't lying. They had nothing to prove that he was lying.
Exactly.
And I don't ever really like when somebody's like, "Oh yeah, it's on your head," or something like that.
Yeah.
But I could kind of understand why.
Yeah.
Because that. Geez.
Yeah,
you don't want to take the fall for something. That. And we see Carlos take the fall for it, and we understand why.
Yeah, she was like, "It's on me, whatever happens," and she's like, "Damn right it is." I'm like, "Jeez."
Yeah. So then we know this is kind of in the morning, and then so it's kind of the next morning. So I'm going to assume that Carlos or TK went home with Carlos that night, even though they had the party at the Strand's house.
Yeah,
because TK stops by back at the Strand house and sees all the boxes in the living room, and he goes, "What the hell's going on?" Basically.
And they thought, and Gwen thought he had a shift, but the medical and fire schedules are different. And so that was interesting.
Yeah,
because we always see them together.
Yeah.
I guess I never really thought that they were on a different schedule, but it makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I felt partially they were trying to separate them a little bit, but then I was like, oh yeah, that could make sense. They could be together half of the time, and then half the time they're not, and it's a different crew. But it was just I don't know.
Or they may be on completely some shifts, and others they just have one. Yes. It's
Well, because I know we've talked about this in season 1 when Owen first met Michelle, it almost because we talked about how he almost really had never met her before.
It didn't look like he knew her at all.
I'm almost wondering if paramedics, even though they work at a certain station, they have their offices in a different place. It's not the fire department doesn't control them, which I think is kind of what he was getting at, was that they are scheduled differently than the firefighters.
Well, also we see this because Owen doesn't have a say in who Tommy hires. And it's completely two different teams that just work alongside each other and share the same station number.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean much because those schedules are completely erratic.
Yeah.
No real rhyme or reason to them except they rotate between usually 3 shifts.
Right. So TK is apparently getting ready for his shift, stops by the house to probably get something, and finds all this. So him and Gwen talk, which she reluctantly has to tell him the truth that not only is she moving back to New York, even though her and Owen, he had just thought they were giving things a try, and her stuff had only been there a week.
That's awkward.
Oh my gosh.
She has to also tell him that the baby is not Owen's, and she's going back to New York, and which we find out a little bit about TK's relationship with Enzo.
I was not expecting it.
Yeah.
And now
I was a little surprised.
Enzo in a way, or like hear more about him. Because I'm like, I don't know who I'm picturing with a name like Enzo, but I don't think I was.
Yeah.
I think I was almost villainizing him.
Yeah.
Because it felt like she cheated on Owen, even though they weren't technically together. But from what she said, it sounds like they weren't even officially broken up yet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, that's a little different, even if that's a whole mess because they broke up for a reason.
Yeah. When I think of Enzo, I think of pizza because there was this really terrible pizza place near my house that literally was so bad it has since closed down, but like that's what I think of.
Oh my god. So bad pizza.
Yeah. Which, in this, we find TK is finding out, and so he's kind of in that almost going numb mode.
The boy is shook.
Yeah, and at first he's like, "No, you don't get to give me this." He's like, "You gave me this story or this speech when I was 7."
And I totally
she's saying
felt
like, "Well, we always love you," and I'm like, "Oh man, I feel for TK."
Like that is honestly that's an
he just had
speech.
His dreams shattered.
Like that's an annoying speech, and I know because I went through a version of that, and it's like you don't ever want to hear that again, especially as an adult, because you know how shallow that speech is.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, he got it when he was 7. He wouldn't have known the shallowness of it. It's shallow.
Right. Yeah. He's 26 or almost 27 now.
I mean, technically speaking,
he's
he
well
could
aware
be
of
getting a divorce of his own if he was married. Like, it's that simple.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. And I don't know, I felt bad. But on the other hand, like, and he did say that, like, Enzo's going to be a great dad. She's like, well, I haven't even told Enzo. And he's like, well, you should. He's a good dad. He was always there for me when dad wasn't.
Like, when he was too busy or something. I was like, okay, it's nice to know there was another male figure in TK's life. Because I think a lot of people kind of... And to be honest, we had no idea there was, like, another guy in the picture.
Right.
But I think a lot of people mainly thought of it as just being Owen and Gwen. So to know that he had another male figure, it's like, people need that.
Right. Yeah, and we didn't even mention it. I think was it last episode or was an episode or two ago when she said something about she's a Jewish girl from the Upper East Side. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of cool that we kind of get the elements that we learn that, TK's half Jewish, at least half Jewish.
Yeah.
Which we know Ronan was born in Israel and moved to the U.S. when he was like 5.
And his parents
so
are
even
Russian Jews.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So he often celebrates certain Jewish holidays, which is cool. I have a friend who's Jewish. So now I'm going to pick her brain and have a few ideas I want to talk to her about. But yeah, so I don't know. I feel bad about TK, because just the night before he's given this like speech about how he's excited and it was like a dream come true, and then to have his dream shattered so quickly.
Yeah. And honestly, I feel for TK in a way because this kind of thing, it's not going to work out. I think like a part of you knows it. Because he had to witness all the bullcrap that they were going through, just having to coexist. Forget about like having a relationship together.
Well, she was quote unquote squatting for 4 or 5 months.
And I think, like, honestly, it's hard to get slapped in the face with like your childhood dream, but I think in a way it was just all too much rather than he was completely surprised.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I feel like a part of him was like, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Or typical or something like that.
Yeah. And this episode just keeps getting yuckier as we move on.
I hated this scene. I skipped through it at various points because I couldn't handle the entire thing.
Yeah,
Raphael did amazing in this episode.
He was almost
episode
crying
in this scene.
Time. Like, I wanted to hug the boy.
So the next scene is Carlos is sitting in the interrogation room at the police station with no badge and no gun, and he was told to sit there until the investigator
And it
came.
was probably a couple of hours.
It was a couple hours.
Yeah.
And in walks his
Awkward.
dad. And so
let me just
I'm
say,
sure as his...
I do not like the man.
Yeah, same.
Especially in this scene. Like, this is where I
in this scene, I was not I was not happy with Gabriel. And, you know, I can imagine Carlos seeing his dad's thinking, okay, my dad's coming, because he says something, and I don't remember the specifics, but he said, you, like, Captain Kincaid called you, or whatever, his Kendricks or something, and like, oh yeah, he probably called you because you guys have known each other for like 30 years.
Yeah.
So we find out there's like a relationship Carlos's boss has with his dad.
That probably feels awkward. Like if it ever gets
before. And like my initial reaction, if I was in Carlos's, would be like, okay, my dad's here. As like he's, you know, but then he realizes kind of through their conversation that
honestly,
he's not there for him.
Honestly, at no point did I ever get the vibe of a close relationship.
No.
Or an even a fully decent relationship. Like, I think, and we learn more about this in a couple of scenes, but I think he just always felt like, you know, he was a disappointment to his dad, and that, like, nothing he ever did was good enough, and that severely hurts a relationship.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, the guy's not even acting like Carlos is his son. Like, he's not getting empathy. I don't want to say interrogated, really, but, like, kind of interrogated. And being treated as if he was the criminal.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And, like, under no circumstances is he a criminal. At this point, he may have made a bad call, but that does not make him a criminal. Right.
So, in this situation, if Carlos was a real... like, this is real. The cop would have their badge and gun. They would be suspended, and they'd be investigated by Internal Affairs. Yeah. So Internal Affairs would investigate their decision as to whether or not it was a good call, the right call. Unfortunately, the robber happened to be connected to a string of bank robberies and other stuff going on, which was being investigated by the Texas Rangers, which is an elite police force in the state of Texas.
And Gabriel
which his dad is now
a major.
Yes, a major in the major in the Texas Rangers. Yeah. Yes,
and
so we kind of, Dad is definitely okay. I will say now he did redeem himself a little bit later on.
Yeah, like towards the end.
But in this scene,
I was so bad. Let's just. I was like, I kind of wanted to throw hands. Just like, nope, you pick it up with me. You don't hurt my baby. That kind of thing. Right. And, well, honestly, I know technically this wasn't a conflict of interest, but it was also kind of a conflict of interest.
It was so...
Yeah. So
like,
I think...
it was so uncomfortable. Like, I'm just like, this is your son, and you're interrogating him? Right. Like, that just seems wrong to me. Like, why wouldn't you have somebody else? Like, I'm sure there's other people. Like, why is it you? Why?
Also, I really feel like Carlos felt...
Oh, yeah.
I think the best word is, like, shunned.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's having his dad shut down his instincts, which... You cannot be a good first responder if you don't listen to your instincts. The book doesn't work. Right. Not all the time. Yeah. It's a guideline in all reality. Yeah. And so he's having his instinct shut down, his experience shut down, and he's almost being, for lack of a better word, taunted with his belief in the other guy's tale. Like the line, "Oh yes, little unluck broke your heart, huh?" It's like, excuse me?
Oh yeah.
Right.
You want to run that by again? Like,
yeah, and even Carlos says, he's like, so you think I made a bad call? And his dad's like, I think whatever that man was representing as an explosives device was convincing, and you feared for your life. And that's a story I can work with. And I'm like,
excuse
really?
me?
Out of all of this is what you... But on the other hand, Gabriel really wasn't coming in as investigating Carlos. He was coming in to get a statement of the witness.
Yeah.
Of that, because IA would be the one investigating Carlos for the bad call part of it.
Which later, we find out there isn't that much to work with. He made a good call, if a little risky. So, like, I'd be surprised if they expand on that anymore in the season. But in this point, it feels pretty dire.
Which is what, at this beginning part of the episode, you know, that's kind of where we're getting at. You know, we had the great beginning, happy scene, and then we get, TK's struggling with something, and now Carlos is kind of basically suspended at work.
And I gotta wonder if TK knows anything about this before the accident. I've seen some people say it.
He doesn't.
Yeah. No,
he doesn't.
So, but
he won't, because Carlos showed up to the police or to the firehouse, which we'll talk about in a moment. I guess we can move on to that. So TK comes to work and kind of gives Dad this like very cold shoulder again. Yeah. Hi, Dad, and walks away.
As Owen says in the call with Gwen, he gets right afterwards like, "Oh, you mean that cold breeze that just went by?" I'm just like,
yeah. So she calls and gives them the, "Hey, just to give you a heads up, I had to tell TK because he stopped by the house."
Yeah, and TK's like, he's not having it. He doesn't want to talk, and obviously he's still processing. It probably feels a little bit like hitting something, or just probably crying, or doing all of the above.
Yeah. Well, he's probably just not sure how to feel.
Yeah. Honestly, that's a lot of conflicting emotions right there. Like,
yeah, because he's conflicted is a very good description right at that moment. And Owen's trying to talk to him, and he's like, "I'm sorry you had to find out that way." He said we were trying to, figure out the right time. He's like, "Well, it sounded like you weren't even going to tell me."
Like, no, we're just waiting for the right time. If you wait for the right time, it ain't never going to come. Not for something else.
Right, exactly. But before they could really have a heart-to-heart about it, the paramedics get a call, so he has to leave. And then Owen's downstairs in the firehouse, and Carlos shows up in civilian clothes.
Scene.
Oh, me too.
This was the scene we have been watching.
This was the father-son scene we needed.
Yes. Like, okay, Owen was more of a father to Carlos in this moment that I feel like gave him for years.
Right. This is what Carlos needed.
Yes. He needed someone to hear him and acknowledge that he did one of the best options there was. Even if it wasn't necessarily the best outcome or best call. Yeah. Like, he needs Carlos acknowledgement.
Yeah, and I love this because, Carlos shows up. Obviously, he's there to just talk to TK and tell him what happened.
And he's so shaken. Like, you can tell.
Like a hug from his boyfriend. Yeah. And Owen's like, "Oh, well, they'll be back in a little bit. Here, come on, I'll make you a smoothie."
We got Owen back.
I feel like season 1 was like Owen being like, "Oh, hey, I'll make you this kind of coffee." And then season 2 is like, "Let me make you a smoothie."
Yes, and it's like, is that
right? I know. Yeah.
I mean, I've had green drinks before, like homemade ones, and they can be pretty good, but it depends on what you put in it.
Yeah. So Owen kind of starts a conversation with Carlos, and he's, gets the whole, like, you can call me Owen, you don't have to call me, Captain Grand all the time, or Sir.
I wanted this. I love it. And I think he's just been raised with such manners that he's like, I don't know how to be informed.
I relate. I'm the same way. There's people that I've known my whole life that I couldn't even dare calling them by their first name. Like, it's just, like, really bothers me. I'm just like, I could never do that. It's weird. I've always been raised to call people by, like, Miss or Mrs. or whatever.
Yes, and, like, I've been, like, raised to do that and either do their last name or their first name, but just have something in front of it. So as, like, granted, I'm only 19, but, like, as an adult, that's, like, really weird because I'm like, I'm not a kid anymore. Does that still work?
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. Never had that answered. I think a lot of people have different answers for that. So,
and it also depends on, like, where you're raised. Because I know in this up here, like, where I'm from, like, doesn't happen that often. But a lot of people, I've noticed people from the South constantly call me Miss Erin or Miss EJ because it's Miss or Mr. in the front of somebody's first name is, like, appropriate to talk to, like, your elder that way. Yeah. And I'm like, please stop calling me that. It drives me crazy.
Honestly, just when I babysat kids and I was called, like, Miss Grace, I'm like, excuse me? I'm, like, only 16 years older than you.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then we get, Owen's like, a slow crime day.
And he's like, I got suspended.
And Carlos is like, I got suspended.
He's like, excuse me?
And then, I was like, what?
And he's like, I'm not supposed to talk about it, but I may have made a bad call today. He's, honestly, my whole thoughts on Carlos in this particular scene is that he's, like, barely holding it together. Like, he's kind of, like, he's holding it together, but he's unraveling. And that's why he came to see TK. It's probably easier to explain this in person than over a phone.
Right.
And I'm glad he's opening up to Owen like Because Owen immediately goes like, well, it comes with the territory. Like, I know what it's like to be out there, having to make a split-second decision with nothing to go on but your gut. He's like, yeah, I think from now on, I'll just go by the book. I'm not sure I can trust my gut. I'm like, you can tell how
because
much
he just had his dad all over his gut.
Yeah, it's like he just got backhanded across the face with like, nope, can't do that. And like, you have bad gut.
And I love how Owen was justifying what he said by saying, yeah, but sometimes the book isn't handy. Yeah. And your gut is what you take out there every day.
Yeah, you don't hold a gun in one hand and the manual in the other. Like that's not how it works. And it doesn't. As I just said, it's more like a guideline because it doesn't work in every situation. Even if there are protocols for just about everything.
And there are, but every protocol is meant to change depending on the situation because every case and study is not going to be the same.
Like, if you wanted to get a full, like, book-abiding officer, like, obviously they need to do good things, but if you wanted to just have them follow the manual, put robots out there. Like, don't put human beings out there.
My favorite part of, like, this whole scene is, like, basically Owen being like, well, can you talk to your dad about it? I've heard he's a Texas Ranger. And, like, Carlos is being like, I already did. It's his case. And then my favorite line out of that is, like, when Owen's like, but, like, saying how uncomfortable that is. And Carlos is like, it's nothing new. Things have been uncomfortable between us for a while since I came out. And then when I joined APD.
Which, this is 10 years we're talking about. Not just a while.
Yeah, at least.
10 years. Because Carlos came out when he was 17. And he's about 27 now. Like, that's about where I put it. And it's like, it's like, yeah, that's significantly more than a while.
And it was really tough in that because when Carlos was like, because Owen thinks, because he didn't want you to be a cop, and he's like, no, I think he thought I was too soft. Maybe he's right. Heart. And I'm like, no.
I crumbled at that, like, because
I felt so bad for Carlos.
Soft behind there, like we need, as he said,
and that's what Owen said. He's like, we need cops with hearts behind the badges.
Yeah, like there should be a heart behind that shield, and he's right, and. It's like, and he says, you've got a good one. And I broke again at that part because, oh my gosh. Thank you, Owen, for stepping up.
Yes. Amen. I mean, Carlos needed that, and he needed, and I think it was really good coming from his boyfriend's dad, just because, that's basically his future father-in-law was thinking. I know I'm saying
we're all thinking
I'm pretty sure we've got all thinking it.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Vernon and Rafa will just quit their
Oh my god. Yes.
Oh gosh, no. But I'm sure we'll say this again, but I'm saying it now because it's awesome. But Raphael did amazing in this episode.
Oh my gosh, he deserves all the recognition.
He deserves awards. He deserves recognition. He was amazing.
This was open. This didn't feel like acting. It felt like we were just watching his life. And
this was raw. This was really, really good.
He didn't have jobs before this. He had a couple small parts. He didn't act before this, though. And
I am so proud of him.
If I remember correctly, he did it to become better at public speaking, which means he's naturally shy. And it's like, oh my goodness, look how far baby is. Oh my gosh. I
am so proud of Raphael.
Proud. Such a victory.
And Ronan too, but Raphael for sure in this episode. Not that I wasn't before, but it definitely solidified it today.
To shine all throughout the season. This is the most we've ever gotten.
Oh yeah, that's Carlos. Why.
And Rafa
knocked
it out of all ballparks.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It's so good.
And I think we might start getting a little bit more of him, but I'm not sure.
I'm hoping. I feel like this may be this, and I'm really hoping it's not just wishful thinking.
Yeah.
I guess Gush Session has to know, but give him love, y'all. Tell him he's good. Anyway.
Yes. If you're not following him on Instagram and Twitter, you need to. Actually, Raphael, or was it actually?
Yeah.
Actually, Rafa.
Yeah. Love that.
Yes. Yeah. So. Which, and so we get this kind of scene, and so obviously Carlos leaves.
Yeah.
And the 126 is called to an apartment fire.
Yes. And
which in the apartment fire, we find out Owen goes in and finds explosive device parts.
Honestly, I was not expecting this part, but I think that's because we didn't know about the bomb. That was the one thing we didn't know about, because we knew there was pregnant woman, bank robbery, and apartment fire that all were seemingly unconnected, but we didn't know about the bomb.
Well, and remember what I said I thought was going to happen last week?
I don't.
I said, I bet you any... Oh, okay. Well, I said, I bet you anything. The 126 response to the apartment... So Gabriel's investigating the bank robbers, which I thought Carlos and him were working on together, which that was not true.
But, and we didn't have much else to call.
I did call that the robbers were in the apartment.
Yeah.
And they got hurt. The guy got hurt in the apartment fire. And then they called the paramedics because they couldn't go to the hospital. So I called some of that.
Honestly, what I was expecting for this was it to be at the end and have the paramedic team trapped in there or something. Which, that's just because a lot of the big stuff is towards the end or the beginning. And so I wasn't expecting it to be at the middle. But this also was less big than it seemed. It's just their first fire that they actually saw.
Right. Yeah, and this was one of the first fires they've really filmed. They've only had a couple. So this was really cool to just see the team working together. And then, so Tommy, Nancy, and TK aren't even on this call because they're still out.
Yeah, they're still out.
And Owen gets everybody out of the building because he finds the bomb parts.
Also, full respect for Marjan and Paul, who turning up the apartment upside down to look for the little girl,
looking for that little girl.
And Marjan's well, where would she hide? And he's well, we checked under the bed, the closet. And she's well, we already checked the closet. She's check them again.
Check again.
And she found it in a laundry basket. She found the girl in a laundry basket. I'm honestly, yes. This is where you learn to hide. In closets, under bed, all that stuff.
So the team gets pulled out of there, and because Owen, so he reports it, obviously. And then we get Carlos is back at the police station with his dad. And the guy who robbed the bank came and turned himself in.
Yeah. Which I was impressed by that.
Me too. I was shocked.
And I think that is that's probably one of the reasons they started to believe him at this point, is because he turned himself in. He didn't let them try to find him or anything like that. He's just nope. Yeah. I really would like to know if he had to suffer any repercussions, because technically he did rob a bank, but under duress. So it's what? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think here, the first scene, I started to loathe Gabriel. I think this scene was where I was
because for me it was Carlos being how about that I being that's all you're gonna tell me, and Gabriel's just what else is there, and Carlos is how about that I was right, that my instincts were good, and he's Carlitos, you know that I can't comment on ongoing investigation. I'm just shut up.
I
loved his response though,
commenting when you were putting him down.
Right. I loved Carlos's response. You mean the investigation into me, right? That's what I am to you, an ongoing investigation. Well, you let me know when my captain tells you what to think of me. I'll be interested to know. And I'm go Carlos.
Honestly, we see him have great respect for elders and authority figures and stuff like that, but he wasn't afraid to stand up for himself at this point, because he was fed up. You could tell, he was hurt, he was fed up, and he didn't get the acknowledgement he deserved.
Yeah, and mostly because it's his father. It's not just some random person investigating him. It's his own father who raised him and stuff. You're gonna be pissed off, and he should be. You deserve the recognition.
Yeah. And so yes, I was not happy with his dad still at this moment. But I was thinking, I wonder if he purposely didn't let down on him because he was hoping his son would help, or he in the back of his mind trusted Carlos and figured that his son's not going to let this go until they figure it out or something.
No,
honestly,
and maybe he did. So this was I don't because in
go on. I'm interested to hear more about it.
No, because I was just thinking because we've seen it in other series where the father is a police officer and maybe the son is too, and then they're different ranks, and so something happens to the son and the father has to relinquish it because it's a conflict of interest, but a lot of times he had to maintain, I don't know, I was just thinking that maybe Gabriel was trying to maintain a solid no, it does. I'm going to be impartial in this, whether he's my son or not. I'm going to treat it like any other case, and honestly, Gabriel has nothing to do with the decision that the Austin PD makes for Carlos's decision on his call, on the bad call or not. So Gabriel was just there because Carlos was the witness to the guy who robbed the bank. So I don't know. It's a mess. But I
see what you're saying, but I don't think so. And I think largely because I'm just not getting that vibe. But also later in the episode, once everything is turned out all right, he can't even acknowledge his son did a good job until Owen basically forces it down his throat.
Yes.
Go Owen on that.
Like, he was ready to give all the credit to everybody else, but he didn't even think of giving it to his son.
Yeah, shoot, he was willing to say, hey, Owen, you want a new job?
Yes!
But
seriously?
Yeah. But
we'll talk about that.
But partially, I still think it's because he thinks Carlos is soft. I don't think that it was anything professional. I think he legit doesn't have faith in him, and I'm standing by that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we don't know what kind of kid Carlos was. He might have been a very
he strikes me as someone
emotional kid or
emotional. I picture him as a reader. What was it when they were having the cool kids moment? It sounded very much like Carlos wasn't one.
I got that vibe,
the way he said it, the cool kids never. I got that vibe.
And I'm like, me too.
I kind of picture him being one of the nerds. Not a nerd, but a little geekier than someone with a
I got that vibe too. Yeah,
and that's where I want to see the glasses come in. Let me just put that out there.
Yes. Can we have Raphael?
Feel like he was
that would be lovely.
The kid that never talked in high school. I don't know. I feel like I
don't know. So after this scene, we get the parking garage where TK is trying to grab into a parking garage with an ambulance, and that's you can barely get a regular pickup truck in a parking garage. You're not going to get an ambulance.
But he's obviously so distracted because of everything that's going on, and I love how he's attributing his own problems to the scene, and they're like,
why?
They're like, TK,
they're like,
maybe
why
just focus on the call.
Yeah. And he's like, well, because my mom's pregnant, but it's not my dad's. And then Tommy's just like, okay, let's
He's like, we're hoofing it from here and just gonna move on. So then they go down, they finally find the quote unquote patient, and the gal pulls a gun on him, and another guy hops out and with a gun, and they kind of hold him at gunpoint. And she's not pregnant. It's that they want the paramedics, to help take care of the guy that got injured in the apartment fire. But at this time, we don't know it's the apartment fire where he was injured.
Yeah.
And
I didn't and they wanted in the episode, one of the last few scenes, they mentioned that if anybody had been standing close by or something like that, or was that later?
Yeah, it was later.
Okay, I couldn't remember.
And so then they say, you're gonna help take care of this guy. Tommy's like, well, we need more than, she's like, well, he needs a table, we need flat, we can't do it in the back of a van or a ambulance. So then Tommy has the wise idea to take them to her husband's restaurant, which has been closed because of COVID. And when they're loading this guy on the gurney to take him to the restaurant, TK takes his 1-year chip out of his pocket and drops it on the floor.
Yes,
and hopefully
that was so smooth.
They'll find it.
Way
Carlos will find it.
It's just so interesting to watch. He just casually drops it out, and I'm just like, yes.
Yeah.
And that was a risk in and of itself, because if they thought he was reaching for a potential weapon or something, if they had seen that, it could have been pistol whipped earlier.
Right.
But, the boy, the boy had more. I'm gonna say outstanding fight in him. Even though the others were fighting the quiet fight, it was he was nope, let's just go big or go home.
Yeah, and then I feel like this was because you had asked earlier if TK knew by then Carlos. So obviously he didn't, because he probably left that chip there knowing Carlos, thinking Carlos would be investigating
it. That's true. Yeah.
So he didn't.
People's theories have just screwed up whether or not. That was a possibility. I'm like, there was a time gap, but I didn't think it was.
And I knew in the scene with Owen and Carlos, because Owen says, "Is TK expecting you?" or something like that, and or like, "Have you talked to TK today?" And Carlos is like, "No, I was on a shift." So
yeah. So Carlos probably had to go in early.
Yeah.
And so, like, wise on TK's part. And then after that, we get Carlos. It's evening time now. And Carlos is at his place waiting on TK to come home. A romantic
dinner, like candles and everything.
With pasta, like homemade. That's homemade
Honestly,
pasta.
That was like the start of the redo of the dinner scene right there. But then it got thwarted.
Yes.
Which I do want to repeat.
And
he's... love that they put that.
Yes, I'm sure we will get some. But we get the pasta emoji text. He's texting TK, and then we see, like, TK gives him a thumbs up, and then he's like, "Where are you? I'm getting worried," because it's been, like, an hour after shift was supposed to get off.
Yeah, like,
and then Carlos
some people were like, their
going
text messages are so dry. And I'm like, they're probably at work. They're not going to be sexting or something.
Yes. I was like, what did you expect?
I'm like, and we only saw, like, 2 lines. Like, trust me, there's probably plenty in there.
Like, I don't think anybody in any sort of relationship has lovey-dovey or sexting every inch of their conversation.
I know.
No, they are normal people too. No, they're... Shoot that down right there.
Right. So, where did you guys think Carlos was going?
I figured...
Yeah, I didn't either.
Honestly, I didn't really think about it. But, like, I think... he was maybe going to the station or something like that. I didn't have time to think
about it. I was just like,
I didn't either, but like looking back, that probably would have been my first assumption.
I would have thought that maybe he would either, I don't know, maybe like he would go to the Strands because, like, I don't know, maybe TK would be there. Or maybe he go to the station. That's, I don't know, it's like very possible. So, like, to me, like, I don't know. That's what I would guess if I hadn't already thought about it.
Yeah.
Amen. All right. So then after this, as he's leaving the apartment, we flash to them they're now at the restaurant, and TK, Nancy, and Tommy are forced to basically work on this guy.
Yeah, basically doing a complicated procedure that should have been done in the hospital. And, like, they're stuck between a rock and a hard place right now because if the guy lives, they probably die. If the guy dies, they definitely die.
Right. So they're in a tough spot.
Honestly, because of a semi-spoiler I heard, I thought the guy died. I didn't expect what came later, but, like, we'll get to that. But I was like, I was seriously waiting for the guy to die. And as the guy he turned out to be, I was wish he had, and I know that
it's warranted.
Like, you know.
Right. Yeah. So they start working on this guy, and then Tommy asks for something from TK, bottle. And so he turns to get it, and by doing that, he happens to glimpse a fire alarm. So and I know what TK's thinking is, I'll pull the fire alarm, and then that'll cause an emergency trigger.
The hard part about that is, in the meantime, what do you think is going to happen? They're going to kill them and then leave.
Right.
And that's like... but I understand why he was thinking that. You can't just sit back and do nothing when there's an option literally right in front of you. And so I'm like, can't fault him for that, even if it was not the best thought through.
Right. So then as TK's going to reach for the fire alarm, because he's kind of like slowly inching back, the guy realizes what's happening.
You see the guy's head like
chases after
TK. But I was surprised that he took that long to stop him. He was probably trying to figure out what he was doing. I mean, but like the guy, oh boy.
Yeah. So then the guy punches TK and knocks kind of for a loop with the gun.
Pistol whips him. And that is a nasty deal, like, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
You watch any Western, any other movie or show with that in there, it's nasty. Because that's just plain unforgiving metal right there. It's like getting hit with a steel rod.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's painful. And so then our next scene, like, can we kind of see, like, because Nancy and Tommy are kind of like freaked out, but they can't really do anything.
Nancy tries to run over to him, but isn't allowed.
Yeah, she stops because they want her to continue to work on the other guy. So then we see Owen and Gwen are talking at their house, and
Carlos knocks.
Carlos shows up, and he's like, sorry to come over late. He's like, I didn't have your number, which I'm like, really? You don't have your boyfriend's dad's number? Okay. Well, I guess that's possible.
Seem like they were on that close of terms, which, like, I'd be a little surprised that they didn't have that, but I also don't see how it's strictly necessary. Do you want to bet, like, how fast they exchange numbers after this?
Probably,
like,
yes.
Right, I know, right? Right. So then he's asking if TK's there, and they're like, no, we thought he was with you. And he goes,
like, hi, Gwen.
He's like, hi. Yeah.
I wish we got him the scene, but I kind of liked the little interaction there.
Yeah. and then like Owen's like, sorry, it's a little messy around here, and then Gwen's like, oh, there's no use in playing coy, Owen. I'm moving back to New York, and then Carlos like casually like not knowing everything. That was,
that was
really?
so awkward.
You seem so happy.
It's so
funny. He just looks like, and I felt bad because that's like awkward, and like the worst thing to say when anyone's splitting up is like, oh, but you seem so happy.
Right.
But also he had no idea what was going on, and I think and then like for certain, I think that's kind of what you meant earlier. I think it was Katie, is that like they didn't talk because he didn't know what was going on with TK, and TK didn't know what was going on with him.
Right.
And he kind of tries to fix it, and he's like, does TK know?
Right. And then, Carl's like, and he's like, Gwen tells him that he found out that morning, and he's like, oh God, that could explain it. And they're like, explain what? And he's like, well, his shift ended an hour ago, and he still hasn't shown up.
Yeah, I didn't like.
Now he's not answering my text.
He's not answering.
Never done this
because, like, I know I've seen a few things on Twitter where people are like, why are people like going off on Gwen and being like, why are you like just assuming your son was like drinking or doing drugs? But there's two ways to take this, and this is how I take it. Is like, yes, she's a mother and she's always gonna worry, but like, I didn't like this because like it was just like so like I was talking to one of my friends about it. I can't remember what I said right now, but like I was just like, I get that she's a mother and you're not always worried about your child, but like also like it's never, yes, he could relapse, but like have a little bit of like faith in him. Like it was just a little like dirty for me. Yeah. Like it was just like kind of, it just really bothered me.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
You go on.
Yeah.
I'll put in my opinion afterwards.
Yeah. I get it. So I think what bothered me the most is she's like, I knew it, because obviously he just found out that morning about the whole situation with her and Owen and the baby. And then them shutting down. So like apparently Gwen and Owen have dealt with him shutting down in the past, which means he shuts down, he goes to drugs. Wow. So I can understand their immediate concern. But again, literally last night, they just celebrated his 1 year sobriety. Give him a chance to like prove you wrong for one and show that he has changed, because he has changed. I think what bothered me is Gwen's jumping of, if he's in a bar or if he's out in an alley right now, so help me, Owen, I'll never forgive myself. I'm like, kind of went on. But in a way, I'm glad she said that, because at least she acknowledges that
it was her.
What
she didn't try and pin it on him.
Could cause
she didn't try and pin it on Owen. Right. Which I was like, so I get what you guys are saying. I half agree. I think it wasn't necessarily wrong to put that as an option, because with his history, it would have been ignorant to not have it as an option. However, I didn't like that it was so final. Like, she put that as the only option. And I don't think she meant it as the only option, but it was immediately her first and really only concern. And, so, like, I get her concern. And to some degree,
I do too.
I'm guessing we haven't even really started to dive anywhere near TK's past with substance abuse, so there's something backing there, and they probably had this happen before. But give him a little bit of credit, and don't immediately pin him into a relapse, which is what a lot of fans were doing. So if any hypocrites were coming on and like slamming her for that, like, I'll keep my nasty thoughts to myself. But but that's my opinion. Like, she wasn't wrong per se, but she needs to keep an open mind.
Yeah, I think I feel like she shouldn't have vocalized it. She should have kept that to herself, especially around your son's boyfriend, who was standing right next to her. But I kind of wonder
what Carlos was thinking in this scenario. Because, like, he says that could explain it, but what's he thinking? Is he like...
Well, that he just needed some time, some space, because I think he knows when TK kind of gives him the cold shoulder.
He just needs time.
It's usually because he needs space. It doesn't necessarily mean, like, bad. It just means he's...
I think I would have loved hearing more about what Carlos was thinking than when necessarily. But, so that's my thoughts on it. So, half agree with you guys, but half see it a little differently. Yeah. So...
Yeah. And so, the last half of the scene is where Owen's like, calm down. He's like, let me call, Tommy. He calls Tommy. Tommy doesn't answer. So he calls the shift on duty captain, who says something to him. He goes, okay, copy that. And he's like, oh, the captain on duty says they're still out, but I think Carlos and I should go to the station and wait for him there.
He was convincing.
Which is good.
Honestly, he was convincing.
Yeah, he was very convincing, and he was very smart to say that. Because obviously, he knows Gwen's pregnant. He doesn't want to stress her out. So he's like, just calm down. We'll just go get him at the station. And it's no point
stressing her out when they have no idea what's happened.
Right. And so when Carlos and Owen get in the truck,
Carlos was
fooled. He was fooled, but he needed to get him out of the house. He needed to be fooled to get him out of the house. And then that's when Owen said, because he knew he could, Carlos could handle what he needed to tell him. And that's when we find out that the ambulance hasn't come back all day. The captain hasn't seen him, and there's no radio, no call,
nothing.
If
I remember correctly, they know it's not good. To report in when they're in transit to hospital, or when they're making a significant step in whatever their call is. So them not calling in, especially after an hour, which this should not be taking that long without any acknowledgement, not a good thing. Not
right. And just to be clear, the call that TK left on when he first got to shift is not the pregnant gal. It was just another call. So, so people don't confuse, they were on that call and it was all backwards. Yeah,
because that would have been hours
the first call of the day was, that he went on was not the gal faking a pregnancy. Yeah. That happened later in their shift.
They just didn't see the fire. They could have
them back at the fire station.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly how the scene played out, but I remember them getting called on, this call. I think it may have been the cold shoulder thing, and we get the call of pregnant woman, and so it may look a little bit like it was one, but it wasn't. So.
Yeah. And so while Carlos and Owen are on their way somewhere, and we don't know exactly where they're going, but he calls Grace at the call center, and she gives him, pulls up the last information she has, which she's the one that sent them on the pregnant gal in the parking garage. And so she's like, oh, they're not on the grid. We can't find them. They've disappeared. Yeah. So that's definitely a little concerning. And I can only imagine what Grace is thinking now that she's realizing that they're not on the grid. Because she's like, I don't know how she would take that. I know I would take it like, oh my god, what did I do?
Because if you'll remember, and the taking to dispatch
911 episode 315,
something like that. Yeah, I think that was exact. The SWAT and the cops and the EMS and all
everybody
of that,
had to
they disabled their GPS because the hostage takers had control of seeing where their GPS was. That's how they knew Athena was getting in.
Right.
And so I actually would have liked to, because this is what I'm assuming, that they were forced to turn off their GPS. Because obviously they took the ambulance, and I guess it's not that much of a secret at all that the emergency response vehicles have this ability. And so I feel like that was something that happened in the background that I would have loved to have actually, seen happen, but that would explain why they're not on the grid.
Right.
And they are not supposed to turn that off. So that's an immediate red flag.
Right. Yep. And because it wasn't expected, they, it wasn't like dispatch got an alert that it went off grid, which you would think that would be like an emergency situation where if it goes off grid that they'd get an emergency alert.
Yeah. But we saw that didn't happen necessarily in 911 because it took them it took them seeing that there was nobody to start realizing something was wrong.
Right. Yeah.
And so in this case, it's great, but if somebody goes off originally, ambulance 126, then it's not so great.
Right. Yeah. Then we're back at the restaurant crime scene area, and Tommy and Nancy are kind of stabilizing the guy. TK's on the floor, kind of half aware of what's going on. And
Tommy, at first you don't think he's awake. I don't think he was originally.
Yeah.
No. He may have just been starting to come to.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. And so Tommy grabs their bag and starts to walk towards TK, and the guy's like,
Tommy
"Wait, where are you going?"
Bullies her way over
there.
Yeah.
She's
and I'm like, "Girl, yes."
Yeah, she was not.
She's
happy,
just
I don't blame her.
I am mad.
Oh yeah,
and I think the guy was starting to be a little scared of her right then, even though he had the gun.
Yeah, and she's like, "I'm gonna go check on my guy." we gonna stop me or something like that? And I was like, amen, go Tommy.
Yes, we love that.
So we find out TK's kind of half awake. He's like, TK. He kind of groans. She's like, can you hear me? He's like, hey, Cap. He's like, so like out of it.
Yeah.
But she's like, do you know where you are? And he's like, Charles's place. And she goes, that's close enough. I mean, we're not there. It's like, what else are we gonna get?
That was so funny. Like, not funny, but also funny.
Yeah.
It was a little amusing, and I think in this you really started to see the bond between the paramedic team, just because they're all in a dangerous situation, and who knows what's going to happen to one of them at any point.
Right.
And so, like, I think this may have been one of my favorite moments of Tommy, is seeing her being basically a mother in this, just, like, taking care of TK and, like, trying to protect Nancy later on and all of that. Like, probably one of my favorite moments with Tommy, like, is in this episode.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right, and then at this time, while she's working on TK, the criminals turn on the TV, and that's when the two guys' faces show up on TV. They're looking for them, like the guy starts having problems, so Tommy has to go back over to him and work on him, and then she fixes it, and then he wakes up and like starts choking her. I was like,
wasn't expecting that, honestly.
Yeah, I did not see that coming.
No.
And then he shoots the other guy. I was also not seeing that coming, though I knew someone died, but I was not expecting it to be him. I thought it was going to be the guy who was, bleeding out of his chest.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, bleeding out of his chest, like, if you want to save a life.
Yeah.
But it was like, wow.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a development.
Yeah, and so they're all kind of looking at each other when the guy and the guy was like an asshole. He just like, can somebody get me a glass of water? I'm kind of parched. Like, really?
And it was like, it kind of sounded like he was going to murder somebody if they didn't. It was like,
yeah.
At that point, you don't doubt it.
Right.
Because you just saw him do that.
Yeah, so so then off we go to Carlos and Owen. Carlos is kind of jogging through the parking garage while Owen follows behind. They're looking for him. Yeah. And Carlos is like, we're, almost at the bottom. I don't know where they'd be. And
they'd be on the other side. And he's like, no, it was the side.
No, it's this side. And so while Carlos is walking, he looks down and sees the chip. And, he shows it to Owen.
Which only picked up by the flashlight.
Right. And then Owen's like, that's TK's sobriety chip. Left us a message he was here. And then Carlos sees the brown panel van that he was talking to his dad about earlier.
And that's when, like, all the
pieces start to come together.
Yeah, it starts clicking. It's like, there's a rhyme and a reason.
Yeah.
Though I have to wonder, and Carlos is a damn-ass good cop, as far as I'm concerned, but he went from empty van with lots of blood to Tommy's husband's restaurant just not too far away pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, that's some good instincts right there.
Yeah. That is. Well, you're trying to figure out if they're not there, either the guys took them away, but there's nowhere to go. The apartment is blown up.
Yeah.
And so you have to go and maybe it was Tommy, and where else other than like very obvious place. And there's no assurance. There's no assurance they're going to find anything, but I don't know, it was like a damn good call, but also I don't think there's any other way they would have arrived to that conclusion. So it kind of had to be that call.
Right. And then Owen's like, you're a good cop, Carlos. And Carlos is like, yeah, tell my father that. And Owen's like, you tell him, gotta call it in. Carlos is like, that.
Yeah.
But,
and his father tells him to stay put.
Right, which when he does, and and Owen's like, what do you want to do? And Carlos is like,
trust my gut.
And it sounded like he was like chewing on nails as he said it. He was like, nope, I'm going to do this because I know I'm right.
Yeah, he's standing his ground. Like, he's like, I know what I want to do and I'm going to do it. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Poppy, yes, baby.
I think at this point he may even be in the mindset where he can't get into any more trouble.
Right. And it very well be, that too. Because obviously he's on suspension, so he really should not be working, which he is. But on the other hand, he is looking for his boyfriend, which at this moment doesn't necessarily realize that it's a connected case to his dad's. So So he wasn't intentionally interfering. Correct.
It just happened.
Right.
At this point, he's like, no, I'm going to go get my boy.
Yes, as he should.
Like, you try and stop.
Right. Right. So we go back to the restaurant, and one of the guys is dead in the kitchen. The other two force Tommy, TK, and Nancy into the rest of the dining area.
And TK's basically in and out of consciousness at this point.
And there's the paramedics are sitting at the table. TK's kind of like, and I loved how like Tommy pinches his arm and he's like, stop it.
Stop that. It hurts.
Oh yeah, some people were...
And the look that Nancy and Tommy were like...
The look they give him, some people were like, I'm sorry, but that, like, when he was like, cut it out, that hurts. Some people were like, man, I'm sorry, but that was super cute. Like, is it bad to think how cute that was? Cute. It was so cute.
It was cute, and like they looked at him like so caring, like that. That hit me in the feels.
Yes.
Right, it did. Yeah,
I kind of feel like it was big sister and mother hen.
Oh yeah,
definitely
taking care of baby.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I think Nancy and TK can't be that far apart in age. Nancy may even be. No, I don't think she's younger.
I think she's older, not like terribly older, but like a little bit.
Yeah.
And so it's like they're taking care of the little brother.
Yep. Yeah, I really like that. And and then obviously the hostage takers are definitely trying to figure out now what they're gonna do, because they're like, you called the paramedics and it's her husband's restaurant,
and they just saw somebody get murdered.
Yeah.
Like,
so then the guy's like, we need to get out of here, and she's like, well, what are we gonna do with them? And
they were going to kill everybody except the one medic, and it's like, nope.
Right. And
Tommy...
he's like, fine, we'll take one. And then they want to take Nancy, but Tommy's like, She's like, you take me. I'm the one that worked on you. But she's like, I'll only go if you...
protecting her little chicks. I'm sorry, I'm obsessed with the idea of a family in this one.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
And Tommy's right. She's like, I'm not going to go anywhere with you guys unless you guys... leave them here unharmed.
And really, if they have to shoot her, then they're still stuck, because every single one would do the same thing. They're not going to let the others. Exactly. They're not going to live while the others die if it has to come to that.
And a good captain, person in charge, is going to protect their teammates, and so she put her life in danger to save her crew, and that's what. And that's a good captain right there.
And the guy, at first I wasn't sure. Like, obviously, they're not going to kill off the paramedic team.
Right.
I mean, who knows? But it doesn't seem like they're going to kill them off. And so I'm like, but that doesn't mean he doesn't try. But I think he was more overwhelmed with the idea that they had to get out of there, that he was willing to, like, acquiesce to, like, her term. And he was like, do you have a walk-in pantry? And she's like, yeah. And like, okay, you can survive in a walk-in pantry for a while if somebody knows how to get to you.
Unless there's food in there.
Better than a walk-in freezer.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Right.
Because those things are cold.
Right. So while the gal kind of helps with Nancy, Nancy's like, well, they're trying to get them back in the kitchen. Nancy's like, well, he's heavy because she's trying to like lift TK, and I think he was doing that on purpose.
And TK was also dead weight at that point, because he wasn't helping himself. But he probably was, like, exaggerating it even more.
He was. You could tell. And so... And then we see kind of Tommy has, like, a needle in her hand that she had been, I guess, stashing in her uniform jacket, And so kind of everything starts to come together, and while the gal... and Nancy are trying to get TK to stand up, Nancy has the time to grab a chair or something and knock it over the gal to kind of knock her down.
And the gun flies out of her head, or hand then, if I remember correctly. And then then it becomes a battle for the gun. Like, they're trying to keep her from getting there.
And I love how TK kicks it away at the same time that Tommy
he can barely stand, but he kicks it away. I'm like, yes, boy.
Right. And then Tommy, like, injects the other guy with the syringe of some sort of narcotics.
Stay down.
No, he doesn't. Even what Nancy said, he's like, he doesn't stay dead.
Oh, that was so good.
I love how it was basically like that.
Right. Yeah, and this guy's got the gun, and so the other gal can't get the gun, so then TK's kicked it away from her. So they're kind of stuck. And then the guy, I think, starts to hold up the gun, and then we hear a shot, and Tommy, like, jumps, and then we realize he goes down, and we turn and see Owen standing there with a gun and Carlos behind him, and I'm like,
with the gun that TK kicked away, which at first I didn't realize. I was like, hold up, where did he get a gun?
Yep.
But I did not realize that it was the one that TK kicked away.
Yeah, and so I'm like, and I'm 9 chances out of 10. The reason why Owen did that was because he knew it would protect Carlos. Because if Carlos had done it,
he would have gotten in trouble.
He would have gotten in more trouble, and he was doing it to protect Carlos.
At first, I was perplexed why it was the firefighter captain instead of the cop shooting, but Carlos didn't have his uniform or his badge.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he was already being investigated, and like you can't do that. Yeah. And I love that Owen like had the presence of mind to think of Carlos when he's trying to rescue his son. And I'm like,
me realize
he's a good captain.
He is, and it also reminds me that a few weeks ago, or it's probably maybe a month now. I don't know if you guys know that Ryan Guzman's fiance wife works at one of the tactical weapons training sites.
Yes, and, like some of the guys.
Rob Lowe was there a couple months ago. Brian, Jules, and Raphael, and Jim. Jim Perrick was there too.
Oh yeah, and they basically had a shooting day.
And they had, but before that, Rob and his sons had been there, and so now I'm wondering. I bet you anything, Rob was there to get some training for the scene.
Probably. Like
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, I just thought of it today. I was like, oh yeah, that's probably why he was there. Like,
I didn't know that it happened.
Oh yeah, same.
Yeah,
but that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And I was hoping we could see like some puppy action.
Right.
Like granted we do get to see him holding a gun earlier in the episode, but I don't know, I don't want him to shoot anybody. But
I think this was really cool because because Carlos could have honestly played dumb and said, well, I was just looking for my boyfriend and helping his dad out find my boyfriend, and so like the steps wise, I think this was how I'm like, it went really well. And then and
also this is a complicated scenario. Mm-hmm. It's not self-defense.
Correct.
But it's defending somebody else.
Right.
Which if you've got like the entire you have everybody backing you up. But you have the prisoners that were held hostage and someone who's under investigation right now as the only witnesses, unless you want to interrogate the bank robber lady.
Yeah.
Or the woman mastermind behind it, who may not be the best witness either. So it's like, it's a tricky situation. But I'm assuming there isn't a problem with it, but in real life, I think it'd be a lot harder.
Oh gosh, the paperwork would be endless.
Though if there's any sort of security footage, that helps.
Yeah.
But still.
Right.
It's tricky. People get in trouble for doing the right thing in those kinds of scenarios.
But no, and this was a good thing, and I'm glad, and I love kind of how it culminated together with like Owen still standing there, and like he looks at Tommy, and she looks at him, and they're like, Captain. And
Carlos is like,
TK.
Oh my gosh.
Hi, baby. Oh, I love that moment.
I melted.
And then like TK, like his hand, like he's like digging into Carlos as he's holding him.
They're like clutching each other for dear life, and I'm like, this is worth more than any kiss or intimacy or any other thing that we've gotten so far. Even though I did love the cuddle
scene.
This is worth more than anything because this shows more of their relationship. This shows more of how committed they are to each other.
Oh yes.
Than, again, kiss, intimacy, anything like that. And the use of the pet names. And that it was scripted, if I heard like, it was scripted.
Yeah, Ronan did say that.
And he was like, hi, baby. It was like, he sounded so relieved.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Like, that I will never get over that. Insane.
I'll watch
Honestly, that's probably number one target.
I've watched this episode like 5 times already.
I know, me too. I think I'm up to 4.
Honestly, I've watched that scene just over and over again.
Oh yeah, there's like a couple scenes I've watched just
because I don't feel like the episode's great, but I don't feel like watching it over and over again just to get to that one scene.
Oh no. Well, when I watch it, there's certain scenes I just skip over because I'm like, I don't need to see this one more time.
Right.
Yeah. So for me, that would be like anything with Gabriel.
Basically.
Except for But oh my gosh, that's a moment of silence for the beauty of Carlos.
Yes.
Yes.
That's it. My life is complete.
And I love, and it was like one of those moments too where like in earlier episodes or season, I think Owen would have been like TK and like run to TK and grab him, you know.
I think it shows a very big dynamic shift.
Yes.
But I think it was a good moment for Owen to like see just how truly committed Carlos is for TK. And
honestly, there's only one disappointment in that for me, and that's that you don't, until the hospital, see Owen interact with TK. Right. Like, I think it was more important to see Carlos, but I would have loved to have, like, seen maybe Owen helping him onto the stretcher or something like that. Just because that would have been the final touch, but even without it, perfect.
Yeah, and then speaking of Gabriel, we get Gabriel's interviewing Owen outside as they're wheeling like TK and the gurney into the ambulance, and Carlos is walking with him, and Gabriel offers Owen a job jokingly. He's like, you'd make a hell of a Texas Ranger.
And like Owen shrugs it off. He's like, well, there are a lot of heroes here today.
Yep. And then Gabriel's
he was giving him a lot of credit, which wasn't necessarily undue, but he was putting like all of the credit on him.
Right, yeah, he's like, Gabriel's like, yeah, but you're the only one who discovered the explosives that allowed us to identify these suspects and came crashing through the door like Clint Eastwood.
I love that reference.
The door was unlocked, and the only reason why anybody got out through the door is because of that brave officer right there, and he points to Carlos, who's like hovering over TK and like kind of that clip was like really good too, and I'm like, there you go, Gabriel.
Even if they hadn't already, like, even if Carlos's parents, we later find out, hadn't already known, like that right there, you know, that's so couple. And also, then I'm going to bet that Carlos never left TK's side this entire time.
Oh yeah.
Oh, probably not. And then best line from Owen in that scene. He's an impressive guy. To Gabriel.
The parallels.
Oh.
I just want to see TK saying that to someone. Like, I don't know, at some point, if it ever comes up, TK saying it to Gabriel about Carlos.
Ooh, that'd be so good. Like, you need to do that. Like, come on now.
Or Gabriel saying it to Carlos about TK.
Ooh. I just want to see TK doing it, because TK's been the center of attention for almost every single one.
Yeah.
Or not center of attention, but, like, part of it. I want to see, though I would love to see Gabriel say that his son is an impressive guy, like, please, acknowledgement, thank you.
I would take that too, please.
I'll take all of it, thank you, and a side of more Tarlos, thank you. And dessert, more Tarlos.
But I love how, like, Carlos, he's got his hand on TK's hip, and he's like, they're kind of like, it was so, like, that was the feels.
It's like an upgrade from season 1, episode 8.
Yes. I wasn't sure if he'd be allowed in the, like, hospital room, and TK was in a coma.
Right. And now he's, like, hovering over his, gurney and not leaving his side. Big step.
Honestly, I'll be honest, I was a little unsure that it was wise to have TK injured again, like, not having much. I didn't want him turning into a buck.
Yeah.
Just saying. I kind of wanted to be Carlos.
I don't either.
Yeah, I mean,
but I liked that they did this. I think it would have, for this plot, it would not have been as good any other way.
I was about to be like, it would have been stupid if it was Carlos getting hurt, like Carlos gets shot.
Right.
Like,
people were predicting that, and I was like, if that's so stupid, like, no, they're not going. And I think we don't want them sharing the same injuries, okay?
Right. I think last episode, I don't want Carlos to get shot.
You did. Honestly, that in the first place would have made more sense being Carlos, since he, works with guns on a daily basis and, does all that. But since it was already exhausted on TK, him getting shot again, I wasn't so much thinking him getting shot as just him being hurt, like car accident or something like that. Though I would still love to see a doting TK.
Oh yeah,
I'm glad it happened.
I do want
this
to.
way.
Yeah, and as he's getting loaded into the ambulance, Gabriel goes over to talk to Carlos, and he's like, "So I thought I told you to stay put." And Carlos like, "You did."
Looks like he's like facing a jury or something.
Yeah, and Gabriel's like, "But you went with your gut." And he's like, I did. He's like, and then I loved Gabriel. Okay, he redeemed himself here. He's like, "Good for you. I'm proud of you, son." And Carlos is like, "Thank you, sir." He almost he was like, "Am I really saying this?"
Yeah, it's like, obviously things aren't magically fixed or anything, but I was glad he wasn't a jerk. All the episodes.
Yeah. And
mainly because I want to like Carlos's parents.
Yeah, me too.
And I feel like it's not a problem of Gabriel not loving his son or anything, because you can tell he does. I just don't know if he knows how to show it necessarily.
Right. A lot of men don't.
True.
Yeah, in a way that doesn't seem as professional as this seemed.
Yeah, and then
I would love to see what his mom's like, but because we already met her a little bit, but I want to see more of that. Anyway,
yeah. So then the ambulance starts, and Gabriel is like, "So you gonna ride with your boyfriend?" And Carlos just like collapses almost, and he's like, "You knew."
He's like, since the day we went into the market, I expected proper introduction next time. And I'm just like, honestly, I'm glad it happened that way.
Yeah. See, and I knew his parents knew.
Same.
I'm like, parents
I know that kind of thing. I figured they would figure it out at some point.
And I'm like, his dad's not a Texas Ranger and a major Texas Ranger.
For nothing.
He's got eyeballs.
Moms notice everything, and the dad is he's
trained to know stuff.
He notices lies. And also, let me just say, Carlos could have done a hell of a better lie than that. Like a lying job. Mm-hmm. Could have done much better than that. So it wasn't exactly a struggle.
So then when Carlos seems relieved that his dad's okay with it.
It took the burden off of him.
Yeah. He says, I think you're really going to like him, Dad. And then Gabriel's like, I already do. My son has got great instincts when it comes to people. And I'm like, okay, he redeemed himself. Because I'm like, that right there was like, I knew he was just trying to be a hard ass earlier in the episode. Because of his, like, what they were going through. But like, he redeemed himself.
My two favorite lines in this were, good for you, I'm proud of you. And I already do, my son has got great instincts when it comes to people. Because he is acknowledging his son. Mm-hmm. And that may have just been a front earlier, but it still hurts. It's still him blowing off his kid who really needs some validation.
Right.
Or, at the very least, acknowledgement.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'll be interested. I am hoping that episode 9 or episode 10 has a family.
It's probably not going to be 9, though.
Probably not 9 because of the episode. Yeah, I just remembered that's kind of begins. And we'll get to that at the end of this podcast. But, like, maybe 10 or 11 or something. I want to see a family dinner. Yes. I want to see them meet him officially. And I want to see the mom call him TJ.
I do, but I don't. Like, I'm just like, oof. But then I kind of do because it'd be funny, because it'd be like...
Just because it's funny, but I want her to get his name right eventually.
I know what you mean, so guys, I do agree, but like...
Yeah. Well, I want her to call him TJ briefly, and then Carlos to correct her.
Like, when they originally see him.
Yeah.
And I kind of want... either Carlos to correct her, or him opening his mouth and Gabriel beating him to the punch. Like,
there you go. That too.
Yeah, that's so good.
That is cool. Even though I feel like they probably talked about it enough, and Gabriel obviously caught the name, because, like, he doesn't have a problem. He probably corrected her.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So then the next scene we get is TK at the hospital in a hospital bed with Owen and Gwen and Carlos, which was really cool to have all three of them there.
Perhaps one of my second or third favorite scene in this episode, because I actually really liked this. And like, his head hurts. He's refused painkillers, which I'm like, obviously that's kind of like obvious, but I liked Owen's acknowledgement of that he always has a choice in every day. He chooses not to, and like, that's such an acknowledgement of everything he has to deal with every day, and how big a step it is that he got to his 1 year. That's just me going on a ramble, but that was one of my favorite parts of it.
And I liked that Gwen was there, and she's like kind of, you know, being encouraging. She's like, but then also being, you know, a typical mom. Like, you're being so brave, honey. And
honestly, that part was funny. Like, here, have some matzo ball soup. And he's like, nope, I'm good. And I know it's like, honey, he's good. How's the lavender oil for that?
I know. And then he's like, well, how about this? And she's like, I think he's had enough of your weird potions for one day. Just have a few more bites. I love that banter though, and I thought it was hilarious with
And TK's just rolling his eyes. So like,
yeah, I know. And then he's like, and you could see he kind of looks at Carlos, and I'm thinking, he's like, maybe I don't want them back together.
Yeah, and Owen's like, if he has any more matzo, they're going to draft into more sodium poisoning.
Yeah.
And I'm cackling at this point.
Oh yeah, I know. And even when Owen's like apologizing, I'm sorry it didn't work out with your mom and I, but that they'll always be a family. And then TK's like, it's okay. If there's one thing I learned today, it's that not all couples are meant to be together. And Owen's like, did he just compare us
to two homicidal maniacs?
Yeah. And Carlos is like,
that was so funny.
It was like, and Gwen's like, fair.
Right. And then I really liked TK saying shouldn't you guys be getting on the road soon? I mean, doesn't somebody have a flight to catch? And then I'm thinking yeah, totally. The translation is get out. I want to be alone with my boyfriend.
Yeah, he's just like, yeah, I've had enough of you guys. Please stop worrying over me. I'm gonna have enough of my mother and boyfriend. Please just go. I love you.
I picture them leaving and Carlos just getting in the bed with him.
Yes, me too. Why couldn't you see that?
Yes.
We were robbed of that, but we got a lot, so I can't really complain.
We got so much, we can barely complain.
I would have loved that, and I just thought of that, so can I have it?
I'm just saying, that's what fanfiction is for,
yes.
So, we have,
I've seen 6 plenty of fanfics.
Yeah, we have some really good ones out there already.
Yeah. I've seen plenty of those, and it's those are pretty good. So, making up for the missing scenes. But honestly, I feel like a lot of people have dwelt on all the missing scenes and not appreciated what we did get. Because all the missing scenes, I think, would have clogged it a little bit.
Yeah.
And we got some really amazing stuff.
We did.
Alright, so thinking that this is going to be the last scene, and then be surprised that it's not, we know that it was nighttime when TK was rescued, but we don't technically know if the nighttime where Judd and Grace are driving in the truck is the same night, because it didn't look like it was raining when they were at the hospital. So
I feel like there's a time skip.
I feel like there's a time jump.
Yeah.
And
even if it's just by a night.
Oh, yeah.
Grace and Judd are driving. Judd is driving to his dad's with, I think, food and
a cowboy hat in the backseat.
Yeah, and they start talking about having kids, because that's what his dad's going to ask about, having grandbabies. And Judd actually opens up and says, maybe we should tell him we're working on it.
And honestly, this is such a big thing, because I feel like Judd's gotten pinged on a lot for, not saying much as far as the grandbabies went and stuff like that. And it's I feel like that was just something he needed to be ready for. Mm-hmm. And it feels like he finally reached that point. Right. As he said, he's not getting any younger. Neither of them are, really. So if they want to start, if they want to have a couple kids, they need to do it now.
Right.
Because not everyone's when? So I love that there was this scene. And, but the kicker of it is, it's such a hopeful scene.
Yeah.
And then it happens, they get crashed into and set off the bridge. Into the water.
Right into the water.
Which has to be a very short time if they're going to be rescued. Because that truck's going to fill up with water. It's going to go into the cracks. It's gonna... They have very limited time. That is a bad situation. Especially if any door is jammed by water pressure or if one or both of them is knocked unconscious. I've seen enough instances of this to be sure that I kind of know how this is gonna go.
And that's why I was thinking there's gonna be a time jump of some sort, because it says that the 126 has to rescue them. So it makes me think there's a time jump enough in the episode to where Owen and the 126 are on shift. That night when it happens, because that's the synopsis for the next episode, is we get kind of a Judd and Grace begins through the next episode coming up.
Which, if you remember, it wasn't the same exact time sensitivity, but during both Eddie and Buck Begins, they had a little bit of time, particularly Eddie Begins, because he was trapped down the well with limited time. Mm-hmm. And during his time trapped down there, he was having flashbacks. Yeah. And I feel like that's exactly what we're going to be getting. We're going to get a whole life story in the very limited time that they have to stay underwater. Even though they might stretch it out over them being rescued and depending on their injuries. I'm completely speculating here, but this is kind of my element, because I feel like
I'm
I
not
know
really
enough about
sure
this.
that I believe that necessarily the 126 is going to rescue them in time. I kind of more think they might have to figure out a way to rescue themselves. I also think that I don't think that TK's going to be there.
No, I don't think so. Because unless they jump by a couple of weeks, he has to be off for a couple of weeks.
We have to assume. And and there's a lot of things we don't know. We don't know if there's like a special rescue team for the water, because I know there is such thing. So we don't even know if they're gonna be. Maybe they'll be there, but doesn't mean they're gonna rescue them.
Honestly, one theory I have, and obviously nothing to support this because we only have this blip. But if they wanted to make this a less time sensitive, I'm thinking Judd, because he automatically has the skills. Maybe Grace is unconscious and he manages to pull them both out, but they're in the river. Maybe he's hurt. And so he has to either try and keep them afloat or try and get them to an area and they have no way to call out because they may have lost their phones or something like that. And that's completely out there. But if they want to make it less time sensitive in a way, like keep them from drowning, but like put them in another precarious situation, that's something they could do. And I only say Judd because I don't think Grace could lift Judd, like tug him along.
Right, especially when you're so wet.
Initially when I saw the scene, I was like, okay, like I can live with this. I was actually very relieved that they didn't leave like a cliffhanger with like TK or Tarlos or Carlos or anything like that. So I was relieved that this was a cliffhanger, and I was like, this I can work with. And like I think a lot of people were like, oh my god, they're gonna kill him off, and I'm like, this is ridiculous.
I don't know.
I don't think so.
There's no logic there. Like they're not gonna. They've already killed off one person this season. They're not going to kill off 2 more people.
They're not going to bring so many new characters in. They already have brought in 2-3 new characters. Like just main, not to mention like families and stuff like that. They're not going to do it again.
My only thought kind of with the episode, I think they're both going to survive the accident, but I don't think they're going to come out of it unscathed. I think Grace is going to have some inability to get pregnant because of the accident.
I don't know if I believe that.
Maybe.
Fully.
That would have to be like severe abdominal trauma, though. Like, which that could be more believable if she was the one behind the wheel, because steering wheels, they get impacted hard. But who knows? Right. I don't know if it's necessarily they might affect their ability to get pregnant, but maybe one or the other is just severely injured, and either it could mean a possibility of them not going back to work, especially Judd, like, because that's such a physically demanding job, or something like that. I don't know. I don't want them. This will sound interesting, but I don't want them to be okay, so to speak. Like, I don't want them to get out of it minorly injured. Like, I want drama. Give me drama.
Oh yeah.
And I'm pretty sure we're gonna get it.
Pretty much hour of that, and like the only reason why I don't think that like that's like that they're gonna go there necessarily if she can't get pregnant, nor per se, is because like I don't know. I just feel like that's almost too obvious. I feel like people expect her not be able to get pregnant. Almost.
The only problem with that kind of thing is usually when they bring up some future topic and then something horrible happens, it impedes the future topic. So I can understand why people are like why you came up with this theory, EJ, that like she may not be able to get pregnant is because they were talking about this and then something devastating happens. But that may not exactly mean infertility. It could just mean some other problem.
Yeah. Or, it just like, maybe Grace is affected, like she goes into a deep depression because it scared her and she went through this PTSD and she just is like scared of getting in a car again and things like that. And so then now she has to work on her own mental health before
I was going to say like,
they can work on
why not Judd? But I think he's been through enough already.
Yeah.
Like he has his own PTSD to deal with.
Right.
But I'm not necessarily excluding it might be Judson, but I feel like it wouldn't quite be right if it was only him.
Yeah.
This is definitely opening up a whole new storyline.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of theories out there and we don't know a lot. Like we've got
much. One little blip of a scene. And since there's still filming the episode, as far as I am aware, or they just like finished filming, they're not going to release anything for a while.
Yeah,
they're not
probably going to share anything for it.
If they share anything, it might be like 2 weeks before they come back or something.
Yeah, I was just thinking.
Yeah, like it's going to be a little while.
Right. Which is okay. I mean, we waited 10 months. I think we can wait 6 weeks. As much as we want more, I think I can wait another 6 weeks.
I don't know if I'd want this necessarily next week, so I'm actually kind of relieved of a break because I don't know if I can take 2 emotional episodes 2 weeks in a row.
Honestly, it's a lot. Boing. Yeah. It's so much impact. Basically, we're going to be going out with a bang. That was what episode 8 was, and driving back in with a bang.
Yeah,
but with kind of
we kind of talked about the promo already. So, what's our overall thought of the current episode we just talked about? Because I loved it. I think it's like my new favorite.
I already said that it took over the crossover for me, which so far nothing else has been able to do. So, like, that's my thought. It was good. I can die happy now because I got all the Tarlos.
Oh my gosh, we got so much Tarlos.
Honestly, we got held back. Not held back. We got a lot of good scenes. But I feel like everything we got and didn't get was leading up to this moment.
Yes.
Yeah, I am so looking forward to everything that happens next. And I love this episode.
Loved it. It's my new favorite. The intensity was everything. I was literally living. I loved Carlos and TK. I loved Carlos and Owen. That was literally everything I needed besides a professional relationship. The parallels were everything. I'm like literally discovering parallel on parallel, and I'm here. This is amazing.
This was amazing. The parallels were awesome. Yeah.
So, the thing I was like waiting to ask until we reach the finale, what are your rankings of the episodes this season? Like top 3.
I don't know how I rank them, but I'll just say my 3 favorites. This is like obviously number 1, 8, and then I really like the crossover, and then I think my other one will be 4.
Same here. Yeah, like that's the exact ranking I have them in. Yeah. So every other thing was good. That's my ranking. How about you?
Did you say B4 or 4?
It's 8 crossover, then 4.
4. Okay, I thought you said before. I'm like, okay, so I wasn't sure, but I think for me, it would be definitely this episode, so episode 8, number 1, and then number 2, I think would be the crossover, and number 4 would be my 3rd choice. Yeah.
Do we have like a 4th favorite though? I feel like that's listed instead. Because like we know our top 3s. We literally have the same top 3, but I'm not sure if we'll all come out like having the same like top 4, like 4th one.
I don't know. I kind of want to say 7, just because there's Tarlos in there.
Yeah. Honestly, I'd say almost a tie between 2, the volcano.
Yeah, I did like 2 a lot.
Like there's kind of a tie there.
I don't know.
But if I had to choose one, I'd only really be choosing 7 because of Paramedic TK and Tarlos. There's like, for me, there's kind of everything to love, like all the feels and everything in 2. So 7 might narrowly take 5, and 2 would take 4 for me.
Yeah, I'm not real sure. I was just thinking, I'm like, between episode 2 and episode 7, those would be kind of the toss-up between my top 4 and 5, just for both, like, there's elements of both of them that I really like, so I'm not, like, I can't really figure out if I would, which one I would rank.
Interchangeable.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, so we got some similarities there.
Yeah.
High fives all around.
High fives, we have the same taste, great minds think alike, all that good stuff.
Oh, yeah. So what are our fan thoughts of this episode?
Raphael Silva needs more screen time. Facts.
Yeah. The boy deserves it.
It shattered me into pieces from beginning to end. That's so relatable. Carlos and Owen are my faves. I'm so scared about Grace and Judd. I want Owen and TK to be close again. I agree, but I feel like we got to a better standing of TK and Owen in this episode, even though we didn't really get much of them like solely. But I feel like since Gwen's leaving, we're gonna get like hopefully more. Also, did occur to my mind that like, oh, Gwen's leaving, so maybe we'll get more Buttercup. Maybe, I hope, especially if TK's like, like, well, we better, because that'll be his like only living.
Yes. Well, that'll be his baby now.
Because I could have sworn I saw in one of the synopsises, it's coming up that Owen's going to be struggling with.
Yeah,
it's just going to be kind of like an empty nest.
I think I saw it for like 9 or 10, and I'm guessing it's 10 because you know
like,
we know what
really
9
released any like episode descriptions, like what's going on in 9, 10, or anything. But like I have seen like just general things for like the second half of the season.
Yeah. I think this was just like during a Q&A with Tim Minear, like they were asking and he was talking about it. So I don't think it's going to be specifically in like a certain episode. It just might be the theme for like the rest of the season.
Sooner.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Honestly, I am looking forward. I've been missing the TK Owen father-son relationship. Like they're not, I wouldn't say they're bad terms. I wouldn't even say they're on okay terms. Like I think they're on pretty good terms. But we haven't seen their like relationship, which was such a key factor.
I need that back in my life.
I need that. Yes. Like I think that was one of my highly anticipated times during waiting for season 2, and it's fallen short, and I want it to be picked back up, and like I want to see their relationship. But dwelling on that one thought, but go on.
And that was it.
Yeah, so our plan is to continue, you know, like we're going to still have episodes coming out. Do we want to tease any of what we're going to do?
Yeah, we have a few
Have we decided what we're going to do?
Stand still ideas. I don't even...
We haven't 100% nailed down, which I think is what our plan is for Saturday.
You know, I think we've discussed doing some analysis of the OG, like not anything really extreme, but maybe talking about highlights from seasons. I know we talked about that.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe talking about Begins episode. I think that came up. Nothing's nailed in stone, anybody, but we have a few ideas.
Yeah, we have quite a few ideas, so we'll definitely have episodes continuing on Mondays, so don't have to worry about not having one.
We're not missing any weeks. We're not taking a break. You're just going to get some more diversity in our content because we don't have an episode to go off of.
Yep.
It's going to be a little bit like what we did to make up some of our episodes in like our discussion of season 1, you know, while waiting for season 2 to premiere.
Yeah, just if we're gonna go over season by season of 911, just let me know so I can start watching them again. It's been a while.
Let's just get past season 1 because you know it was like not that great. Let's just start off with season 2 and like go from there.
Yeah, I mean we could still do season 1 because I think there were some good things in it, but
there were some good things. I just think we're not going to dwell on that very long. No. But if we're going to talk about I have been on a binge lately with the OG, so fortunately I'm caught up.
I'd have to rewatch it just to remember what happened. Season 2 I've seen like a billion times, so that's no problem because I actually really like season 2. So
I've seen it a billion times because I own it on Amazon. That's the only season I own, and I love watching it without having to worry about ads. Yeah. Also, I love season 2 Eddie, so
me too.
Also, I have a soft spot for season 2 Buck as well because you know of Eddie. So one of my top favorites. But we'll talk about that. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We have planning meeting coming up, so we'll figure it out this weekend.
Tune in.
Yes.
Just keep tuning in, everybody.
Yeah.
We're not done. And we are very excited to do our extra episode.
It'll be
fun. We're very excited to pick back up when the show does.
Yep.
Going in with like a fresh mind and having an excuse to like watch the season over again, just to refresh our minds, quote unquote.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us and listening in. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on Anchor. We're also on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts, and almost anywhere podcasts can be found. On iTunes, please rate us and leave us a review. It would be a lot to us. You guys can follow the podcast on our socials at 911LS Roundup on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
At For Love of Tarlos on Instagram and at For Love of Tarlos on Twitter.
You can follow me, Grace, at Ronan Ratha 911 on Instagram and at Sheepgirl31 on Twitter.
You can follow me, EJ, at EJ8302 on Instagram and Twitter.
Bye.